there's a company, Rivian. It's a very, like a Tesla is in car, they are in trucks. We are the transmission makers for them, single source, into the US. So this is the kind of customers we have. So Hero is a learning organization and hungry for growth, and what I've learned from my father, कि सबको साथ में लेके चलो and you'll go longer. So I'll end my class दिखा दो. So this is the little more detail. I'll skip the slide. Okay, we can skip this. This is more detailing and platform. So what was a net, जो बोलते ना net worth negative, debt and capital and liabilities are there and काम नहीं है. From there we've come to a 7,500 people base. There's a good asset base and the revenue. This, in my goal, is half of 2022. Next 12 quarters, we will double. So I hope I can show you my face that time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pankaj Munjal, and more power to you. For our panel discussion on MSMEs in the global value chain, now please welcome the moderator, Mr. Akhil Bansal, Deputy CEO, KPMG India. This will be a half-hour discussion, and now also our panelists, Sandhar Technologies Limited, Mr. Sachid Madan, Chief Executive, Fresh Fruit and Vegetables and Frozen Food, ITC, Ms. Bhavna Bhatia, Program Leader, World Bank, Dr. Rene van Berkel, Representative, Regional Office, India, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and Mr. Sarbjit Singh Samra, Managing Director, Capital Small Finance Bank. I'll now hand the floor to Mr. Akhil Bansal.
Mic on. Thank you. Thank you so much. How much time do we have now? Or we have half an hour because it seems to be running late. I've got the mic. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I feel privileged to be part of this extraordinary initiative by Government of Punjab. And it's so heartening to see such immense participation, not only from the government, but also from the private sector. I've been told that there are MSME entrepreneurs from all the district of Punjab here, so very good to see that. Punjab, no doubt in my mind, is a very MSME focused state and has done a tremendous job with about 15 lakh MSME units in the Punjab, and which has grown about 15% over 2016. And more interestingly, when you look at Punjab, historically what used to be small enterprises have spawned to become large organizations at the national level with global reach. And we have just heard Mr. Munjal. It's a great story among many stories coming from Punjab. There is a spirit of entrepreneurship in the land of Punjab, and which is very fascinating. And we at KPMG in India also realizes the importance and potential that the state carries, and we were the first among the consulting firm to open an office in the state of Punjab, and where we are proud of working with the progressive team of Punjab government on various initiatives, including ease of doing and we are proud to be associated as a knowledge partner for this event. When it comes to MSME sector, MSME has been the backbone of any economy across the world. When you look at the world in terms of number of units, 90% plus of the businesses are in the category, whatever name they may be given in different part of the world, but what we call MSME in India. 50% of employment actually comes from MSME sector. And it plays a very important role as far as employment is concerned. And if you look at what World Bank has predicted, estimated, that 60 crore jobs will be required for all the new generation which is joining the workforce. MSME will continue to play a large role. In India also, as we have already heard, 30% of our GDP comes from MSME sector, 45 to 50% of exports are from MSME sector, 11 crore jobs are there, and we are adding 1.2 crore per annum to the workforce each year, and therefore those many jobs are required, and therefore MSME will play certainly a very important role. But 4 or 5 things which to my mind are critical from MSME sector perspective, whether it is access to capital, access to infrastructure, access to market, and more importantly, the awareness and knowledge about the regulations, about the policies, about the infrastructure, about the global market, how to access that is very critical. And last but not the least, the technology innovation which are happening. If MSME is not able to keep pace with that, no one in the world would buy a product just out of the sympathy. So whether you are small, you are big, technologically your product has to be up to date, and only then you will survive. With that context, let me start the discussion, and I'm privileged to have an excellent panel here, not only in terms of the quality of individuals who are there on the panel, but also the diversity of this panel. We have the world organizations, we have a financer on the panel, we have a large industry who's part of the ecosystem for MSME, and we have an MSME becoming a large organization itself. But let me start with you, Ms. Bhatia. India Country Partnership Framework for financial year 2018 to 2022 talks about many things, but the three key priorities over there is to build environment to catalyze firms to grow their market share and fit into the ecosystem of global chain. You have been quite engaged with the state of Punjab as World Bank. What are the key programs you are already working on or you're planning from MSME perspective?
Thank you. Pleasure to be here in this room full of so much of excitement and energy to support the growth of Punjab. From the World Bank, I would like to mention that for us, for the next 4 years, under our country partnership framework, one of the key focus areas to support the government is essentially to help competitiveness in the country and help create an enabling framework that will actually catalyze jobs. And I think MSME is at the center of that. I think MSME holds the potential, the numbers that have been talked about, who can really offer the opportunity for India to not just create the jobs, but actually take the India to the path of growth in the global economy that we're all aspiring for. So what is it that the bank is really trying to do? As you know, I think there's been tremendous progress through the ease of doing business in terms of the way India is moving up the ladder. I think to take advantage of that movement, this is the time for MSMEs to be able to actually deliver and take on the opportunities that are lying ahead of us. So 4 specific things at the country level where we are focused on. First, in terms of how do you strengthen the business environment and firm capabilities? I think it's important to recognize that given the way the competitiveness is increasing, the firms will have to become much more agile, will have to become much more productive, and have to grow. I think what we find is that the firms in India, particularly in the MSME sector, are mostly concentrated in micro and small. So I think we do see that if the MSME sector has to be able to deliver to the objective that the India is aspiring for, I think the growth and productivity of the firms will be key. And we all talk a lot about the skills, but I think what our global experience is showing us is both enhancing managerial capabilities and leveraging the technology platforms is what is going to help the firms be able to compete and to be able to be in the bandwidth of the margins that today they're looking at. It's really thinning in terms of the margins that you have. Second important, logistics connectivity. I think very crucial, and I think it's heartening to see the kind of efforts that Punjab has put together, constantly coming out as the ranking number 2nd in terms of the logistics, despite being a landlocked state. I think what the state has shown is there's potential to be able to leverage the logistics. So I think this is a huge plus the state has, which must be leveraged. Third important area where the bank is focusing on is what you talked about, access to finance. And I think there are two aspects to it. One, I think we need to make our financial sector more resilient. I think we are seeing right now there are stresses in the system which needs the right policy interventions to be able to make sure that the flow of resources, particularly for MSME sector, are eased off. Because unless those set of reforms take place, the constraint that will be felt would be most felt with the MSME sector. Second part is, how do you actually start to innovate and think about access to finance, particularly for small and medium enterprises? And we're not even talking about the large amount of unorganized sector, which sits there and has the potential to move up the value chain. And I think that's where using more innovative instruments, building credit history, these are the kind of areas where the bank is very actively engaging. The last is around the skills, huge amount of support that we're providing in skill development, large programs around that. So just to kind of conclude and give more specific things what we are doing. So as of now, we are in the process of preparing almost a $500 million worth of project for MSME Ministry, which will benefit all the states. The focus will be in terms of helping to improve the systems and effectiveness of the various schemes that the government is offering, and in addition to that, what the state governments are offering. Second, at this point of time, we are particularly looking at agriculture value add as one of the segments, where again, Punjab has a huge potential. How do we help the India to move up its game on the agriculture value add? Some of the statistics that I have is only 2% of our fruits and vegetables are actually processed in this country. Take a lead. Also, if you look at the food processing in the global market, we're right now only around about 13% of the exports. And I think, again, a huge potential where we can. Coming to specifically two areas where we are also focusing, where the bank has been working quite extensively. And here again, supporting the role of how do you link it to the global value chain? How do you bring the consortium of firms who focus on R&D, who focus on linking to the global markets, and to really innovate and see how can we, through these innovations, reach out to the global value chains in the market, both domestic as well as global. Technology centers, we actually are funding 35 technology centers. 2 of them are being upgraded in the state of Punjab, Jalandhar and Ludhiana, where the bank has put in resources to bring in cutting-edge technology for these centers and making it accessible, especially for the small micro firms which cannot afford these technologies all by themselves. Punjab, over the last 1 year, I am very, very pleased to say that this is the first state where the bank is actually working in an approach which is what we call as an integrated approach. Any of these challenges or problems that we are seeing cannot be done in a very siloed manner, and particularly MSME, if you look at, it touches across so many departments, sectors, ministries, etc. How do you think about an integrated approach? And our approach over here is going to focus on two aspects. First, make your system, institutions resilient, strong, to be able to move from the policies to action on the ground. In terms of building the state capabilities, in terms of strengthening these systems across different departments, that's where the bank is focused on. Second, in terms of the sectors, certainly agriculture is one of the key priority areas, and linked to it the challenges the state faces around the groundwater management, etc. But really moving Punjab's agriculture more into a diversified economy, and therefore the opportunity to link to the opportunities in the both domestic and global markets. That's the key focus of our engagement. And along with this, urbanization, which is the state again being one of the most urbanized state, how do you actually make sure our cities really becomes the engines of growth? So these are some of the areas we are particularly focusing in Punjab.
Thank you so much. These are not some of the areas there. You're almost covering end to end of what is required. So good to see that. I'm sure all of this will result into great results for MSME and great results for the state of Punjab. Dr. Burkle, if I can move to you. UNODO has been associated with India and running various programs towards the industrial sector. Can you elaborate on some of the programs you are doing, whether on a pan-India basis or for the state of Punjab, and more specifically on the MSME sector side?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I represent UNIDO, the UN Industrial Development Organization. So we're basically working to promote industrialization, but for industrialization for the 21st century. So I say that we need factories that work for markets, for people, and for the environment. And that's then commensurate with inclusive and sustainable industrial development. We have some ongoing work in Punjab. Maybe a little bit outside here, but we work on biomedical waste management, where we supported 28 hospitals on waste segregation and also handling of the development of the infrastructure for common treatment facilities for biomedical waste. We have also worked with the DPIIT on the bicycle and bicycle parts industry in Ludhiana with the Research and Development Center for Bicycles and Sewer Machines, where we've basically tried to scale up or improve and scale up the research center and the support which they can provide to smaller scale manufacturers of components and so on. And I think a lot of work went into really testing of components, also moving into the e-bikes and into advanced designs of bicycle components. On the third component, which touches upon Punjab, we are working quite extensively with Bureau of Energy Efficiency on energy efficiency. So in Jalandhar, in the hand tools cluster, we set up an energy monitoring cell, which is basically helping the companies to first start monitoring energy use and then try to control this. So if I give you some figures, so far about 30 MSMEs have benefited from these services. They saved 250 tons of oil equivalent. They achieved 1.8 crores of savings for an investment of 1.2 crores, sorry. So we're looking to scale this up in the coming year to about 90 units in the hand tool sector, and then also expand this to cover all the 14 dairy units in the state. So we have quite a footprint on the MSME sector. And indeed, in our country program, which we have with DPIIT, we have a very strong focus on what we call them productive and resilient MSMEs. So also looking at the long-term viability of the MSMEs. I mean, I often go that we say we have the two extremes very much. So we have very advanced ones, but by and large, we see that MSMEs are still underperforming in terms of quality, productivity, occupational health and safety, and so on. And this is a really a challenge that we see. So currently there's a level of underperformance which is hidden in the MSME sector. And I think a further factor is that, of course, manufacturing globally is changing, and the preparedness for change, like Industry 4.0, or how are we going to deal with the circular economy, or how do we deal really with the demands of the global value chains. So if you want to, first of all, address this issue of let's call it underperformance. We see a lot of initiatives around access to finance, which we basically see, and access to market, which we see in terms of incentivizing. But from our perspective and our conversations which we've had with the business sector, we also see that there's a need to address firm level capabilities, as my previous speaker was saying. So we really need to build world-class manufacturing to really grasp the opportunities. Incentives will only work if there's internal capability to compete. And in that, I think we formed 4 levers where we see changes needed. And one of them is, of course, in the business information system. So how do we actually provide information and on technology, on good practices to the, the two-crow manufacturing MSMEs. Then I think a further point is how do we provide end-to-end support on innovation? So there's a lot of good ideas around in the institutions, in the research sector, also individuals, but we kind of have a difficulty of hand-holding on each stage of commercialization of this intellectual property or this clean tech innovation related issues. And the third point, I think we also have an issue to really drive productivity as a mindset. I've argued before that maybe what is needed for India, for Punjab, is a kind of a national drive for productivity, something like Swachh Bharat. We've had to clean up our city environments. We need to also clean up the manufacturing sector. And if I take one of the programs which we do with the automotive components sector, is that really this shows if you try to bring in lean manufacturing, Kaizen, and so on, really what we should say is manufacturing 101 right now. We still have so much savings that can be made. And then fourth point is that we need to address, certainly in the established or older industrial zones, to address the environmental challenges which we have created from the past. So I think that is also listening where our offer of potential support to the state could be. We are very much interested to see the growth of the manufacturing sector. So we need to see that tiny becomes micro becomes small, medium, large. And there is some hand-holding and capability to be done. We're also very keen, I don't have time to elaborate on this, but how we set up industrial zones that are then productive, but also deal with the environmental issues. And last but not least, I think that we need to work on, if we want to be part of global value chains, we need to have a product that's innovative and high quality, but we also need to be ready to meet these sustainability expectations of the market, so meet environmental performance and social performance. So these are just some of the areas that we will be very keen to engage with, and we are ready to stand Punjab to support Punjab government. Thank you.
It's good to have both World Bank and UNIDO working in these sectors. That would be very helpful. Mr. Samra, if I can move to you, but before I raise a question, congratulations of your latest round of funding. As I said earlier, access to finance is a key factor for success, more so in MSME sector, and you are running the small finance bank. As a market leader in your segment in the state of Punjab, you must be dealing with a lot of MSMEs across the state. How do you see the MSME ecosystem coming up or evolving over the last few years?
Thank you, Mr. Bansal, for your comments. Just to give you a brief idea of what we are doing and how we have evolved, we are a homegrown bank grown out of local area. Now got an opportunity to convert ourselves to small finance bank when, of course, we have opportunity now to go pan-India. But since earlier as a local area bank, before our conversion 3.5 years back, we were operating out of only 5 districts of Punjab. So we thought that Punjab is a niche market for us. And even though we have started expanding to other neighboring states, but as of now, we have 150 branches, and out of that, 133 are in Punjab. And our focus area for lending is, of course, agriculture and MSMEs. To be precise, like 33% of the loan portfolio is agri and 30% is now MSME. MSME was earlier around 23 before this expansion, but it is increasing. And it is, now we are present almost all over Punjab. And when we talk about, like to give you a fair idea of MSMEs around, since we are, as your question is also, we have been interacting with them. And of course, we have been financing them. Most of them have grown over a period of time with us. Our experience have been excellent. You can just judge from this that we are with the least NPAs from, otherwise the NPA level is very healthy with the bank. The net NPAs are slightly below 1%. And from MSME still it is lower. And even from the current round of funding which has come, which you mentioned, say from the current expansion also, we are expanding now 26 branches and 20 again we are putting up in Punjab. So a lot of the capital that has come will still go for expansion into Punjab. But of course, forums like this, the initiatives of the Punjab government like this, creates networking for MSMEs, both nationally as well as globally, which is the need of the hour. But of course, since the audience, majority of us are MSMEs. And what I do feel when we, over my experience for all these years, that sometimes we do feel that we are very small, maybe we don't need that kind of professionalism in the management. And as Mr. Munjal was, while he was giving his presentation, if we gather from that, we need to develop new products and services as the world and the markets are evolving. And of course, we are to create a brand value. And it is my advice to you to bring in a professionalism in the management, and then of course to have a very robust governance system. Even if we are small, tomorrow if we are to attract, I would say, capital, or we are to lead our segment from the front, we need to be focused. And if we